and Innovation for Biocom California Institute. The Institute, which is a nonprofit arm of Biocom California, has the mission of developing and promoting a skilled and diverse pipeline of talent to accelerate the growth of the California life science ecosystem. The Veterans Initiative is one of our signature programs for the Institute and has proven to be a great source of talent for the life science industry. Many of you chose a career in the military because you wanted to be part of something that would make a difference in our world. We believe you'll find that same type of alignment in the life science sector. Today, you'll be hearing from speakers just like you who have found a way to continue their service to this mission. After the symposium, if you'd like to take a deeper dive into learning more about a career in the life science field, we invite you to apply for our Military Career Exploration Fellowship. The fellowship, which you'll be hearing more about today, has resulted in numerous job placements for our veteran community. Our 2020 cohort has already seen over 60% placement in full-time jobs or paid internships. I would also like to take a moment to thank all of the sponsors of this event who make it possible for us to provide the symposium, the fellowship, and events and opportunities for veterans throughout the year. These companies, along with the foundation, have demonstrated their commitment to our veteran community, and we'd like to thank them for all that they do to promote and encourage veterans to pursue careers in the life science and STEM fields. And now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Heather Vano, Senior Program Manager for Supplier Diversity, Thermo Fisher Scientific, who will talk about overcoming the odds, a journey from service to the workplace. Heather has been with Thermo Fisher since 2004 and as a member of the Supplier Diversity Program, assuming management responsibilities in 2007. In addition, she was selected to be the Small Business Liaison Officer for Thermo Fisher Scientific. She is responsible for meeting with SBA auditors for compliance and goal attainment with their Tier 1 program. Prior to joining Thermo Fisher, she was a buyer and a facility manager for a small clinical trials company. Heather was a member of the U.S. Air Force Reserve from 1989 to 1998, where she was an E5 in the Civil Engineer Squadron. She also served as her team's non-commissioned officer in charge. Welcome, Heather. Hi, Heather. No, sorry, we cannot hear you.
Vicki, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Great. I'm
Welcome.
Not sure that. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not sure if my camera feed is coming through, so.
It's not. I don't know if you want to just hit the start on your video.
Yes, that's what I'm going to try to do now. It doesn't seem to be.
There we go.
I cannot seem to get the Biocom behind me, but so I apologize. All right.
That's okay. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. So I think you're good to go.
Thank you. And thank you all for your taking time with me today. I know you're all very busy, so I appreciate you all setting aside time, to speak with me. So I want to let you know I'm not a science major, and everything that I learned through experiences and coming from similar backgrounds to backgrounds that you probably all experienced. So I wanted to make sure that you each understand how important your experiences are, and that knowledge and that experience is valued by employers. So for me, I always knew that I wanted to serve, and I wasn't sure how. So when I was in high school, I took the ASVABs and I got my scores, and I was told based on my scores that I could do anything. So I went over to the Army recruiter, and I'm between junior and senior year in high school at this time. And I speak to him and he says, hey, your scores are great. You could do anything. And, that ego pride thing kicked in. And I said, what's the most difficult job to do? And he told me, and I said, I want to do that. And he said, you can't, you're a girl. And I said, oh, okay. What's the second most difficult job? And he told me what it was. And I said, I want to do that. And he said, yeah, you can't, you're a girl. And after the first 5, I wasn't as excited about joining the Army anymore. So I decided to take a break. And then a little while later, I drove up to Carnegie Mellon and met with the Navy and Marine ROTC folks and did the same thing, had the same conversation. And I got the, you can't, you're a girl. So I decided maybe it wasn't my calling. Maybe I shouldn't serve. And so I gave up and I decided I'm going to apply to one college. And if I get in, I'll go to college. And if I don't, I'll do something else. So I got in and I went to the University of Pittsburgh and I had a roommate named Roz. So she'll be important later in the story. So after my sophomore year, I ran out of money. And so I happened to be driving home and driving by an Air Force recruiting event. And so I thought, all right, I'll just give it one more chance. I need the GI Bill to graduate from college. And so I stopped and I met with him. We had a good conversation. We end up going back to his office and I say, listen, I want to join. And so he ends up going into his filing cabinet and he's pulling out some paperwork. And I said, what's the most difficult job you have? And he said, it's either A or B. And I said, well, which one leaves first for basic training? And he said, A. I said, I want to do A. And he puts his head down, he starts filling out paperwork. And a couple minutes in, it's very quiet. And I say, but I'm a girl. And very casually, he looks up over his glasses and he's like, yes, I'm aware. And then just goes back down to filling his paperwork out. So I was very happy. But I just so happened to join the Air Force Reserve right as Desert Shield and Desert Storm were kicking off. And so I lived on base. And because of that, I got the opportunity to work in the landside hospital. And I got to do insourcing for different projects for them, everything from mobility bags all the way to drywall. And then I was given an opportunity to build a roads and ground building. And so I had to do my homework on what the foot candles were per square foot for the military and what's the largest lift for a forklift driver. So if they don't buzz the lift back down and they hit the building, it doesn't break the building. But those things weren't in my job description. They were just extra things I got to do. And I got to participate in OREs and ORIs, things like when you put up tents beside each other, making sure the tent ropes don't overlap so that if there is an attack and you're fleeing, you don't clothesline yourself, so to speak. I was part of a civil engineering squadron, and there were more than 200 people in that unit, but 7 were women. So there were a lot of different aspects to that ratio and my age. So I was 20. I had never really been away from home. And I'm in an engineering squadron. So I had to show I belonged, that I could do the job, that I was the job. And I was given the opportunity to prove it. And I did. And eventually I became the NCOIC for my team. And so for anyone that's interested, my AFSC was 55370. And so I got to be that person. And then as things settled down, I ended up taking a civilian position with the my master sergeant in the civil engineering squadron. And he was in the civilian world, a civil engineer. And so I was submerged in the construction field. Again, not a lot of women. And I'm, this tall, I'm 4'11". So I'm this small woman on site, on a construction site. And I, again, have to prove I can do the job, right? I can run the gun, I can run the team, that sort of thing. I can do those things. And I did, I was given that opportunity. And I learned a lot. And so I ended up getting a call from my old college roommate, Roz, and she wanted me to take a part-time role working for a company that she was the director of. She was in a clinical trials company. And so the job ended up growing from part-time to full-time. And I got to be in charge of sourcing. And I ended up leading a team of 14. And I got to learn all about drug trials and, you know, three-way blind studies, all these different things that weren't really in my job description. But all of it was OJT, all of it. And so I ended up being recruited by a recruiting firm because of my clinical trials experience. And the company, the recruiting firm that hired me to recruit people for clinical trials and pharma companies. So I got to work with pharma companies. And then when my boss at the recruiting firm ended up leaving, she ended up taking a job at Fisher Scientific. So she called me and said, hey, listen, Fisher's building a new team. They need someone who can talk to veterans and talk to veteran-owned businesses. So I started there as a sales rep, no sales experience. And fast forward, and I've been with the organization 17 years. So I lead one division, I mentor another division, and I've done training for several other divisions. I also help our customers, other companies, build their programs. So I went from being a sales member, a team member, to being able to rebuild our program and then help my customers build their strong program. And, you know, I was talking about veterans and veteran-owned businesses. So the reason it was important for me to talk is because I am not someone who graduated from high school and said, you know what, I'm going to work for a life sciences company. That was not my strong suit. I like to figure things out, and I wanted to make something better, but I like being on a team. And I didn't care if I was a team member or a coach or a mentor, but you know, you always want to bring someone else along so they can learn too. So growing the clinical trials team or building the supplier diversity team is great because I got to have people channel their inner passion and build better programs themselves. So my AFSC is 55370, and that translates to site development or civil engineer. There are no words like chemistry, biology, biotech. That's not in that job description. But I got to learn through purchasing and sourcing and procurement. I got to figure things out with input from peers, other teams, my team members. So I don't want you all to look at a company and say, well, there's a science company. I don't have that background. We need finance majors, English majors, marketing, people who can read contracts. We have 90,000 employees. 1 in 5 has either an accounting or finance primary background. So think beyond your AFSC or your MOS. Maybe think about biotech like a hospital, right? Not everyone's a doctor. I mean, there's all these other roles there. And I always compare it to being on a football team. So there's players on offense and there's players on defense and there's special teams. And individual stats are great, but at the end of the day, it's the score. So yeah, you have 120 yards and 1 TD. Great. We lost 42-7. Good job. So think about that way. And being on the military, it already teaches you to adapt and to overcome, how to be a part of something bigger than yourself. You're doing things that literally make people's lives better. All those skills translate into the civilian world. You're already a leader. You already have that skill set. You've demonstrated you're that person. So don't be so hard on yourself and don't take those skills that you've acquired for granted. They're very important. And that skill set is rarer than you think. So the questions really are, what do you want to do next? And how do you make sure that your accomplishments are highlighted so that companies see what a great asset you are, how you're that person that they want? So thank you for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Heather. We really appreciate it. That was incredible. Love to hear your story. Howard, do we have any questions from our audience for Heather? Oh, you're muted, Howard.
Not at this moment. We are open now for some Q&A with our keynote speaker, Heather. Please go ahead and submit your questions either in the chat box or in the Q&A.
Heather, I have a quick question for you. How did you happen across that Air Force recruiting office when you were walking down the street?
Believe it or not, it was actually just something at the time that in Western Pennsylvania, they would have like pop-up events to increase, catch kids either that wanted the GI Bill that were going into college or that were kind of fumbling around at college and not sure what they wanted to do after they graduated. So it was a dual approach, either, hey, you can join the ROTC in high school or college or go right into basic.
All right, Heather, we have a couple of questions that have come through here. First one is, where did you get to meet General Powell?
Thank you, Fisher Scientific. So there's a diversity council team that's out of Western Pennsylvania, and I got an email that said, hey, Heather, I know this guy's one of your heroes. He's actually going to be in the area speaking about his experiences and how all of his experiences made him a better leader. Want to meet him. And so I actually got to hear him speak about opportunities for success and failure. And then afterwards, I got to meet him just to tell him, I mean, I almost stammered. So.
And the next question here, Heather, what was the biggest challenge you had in landing a job once you separated from service?
So the challenge for me is I had all this engineering experience and no engineering degree. And I had a Bachelor of Arts degree and no experience. So it was really through relationships, advocates, champions, organizations like that. And for me, I want veterans, I always think of veterans as team members, right? We're all on the same team. And so when you separate, I felt lonely or alone because I wasn't part of something bigger than myself. So I had to resubmerge myself in other things that were team-like and ended up with some advocates who were also ex-military.
Thank you, Heather. Let's see, have anything else in here? Karen, do you have anything on your end?
Yes. Bless you. Heather, what is the best part of your job today at Thermo Fisher?
I get to play Cupid. So I actually get to meet with large organizations who want to work with small and diverse entities. And so I introduce them based on fit. And the other part of my job is I get to be an advocate. I'm with our Veterans Employee Resource Group in coming up with new ways to meet and potentially, hopefully hire veterans. So I get to do both. I get to be an advocate both ways with small business owners and with veterans themselves.
Awesome. And do you have the type of job where you do different things every day, or do you have sort of the same, types of things that you do every day?
Different things every day. And I get asked, or my team members, volunteer to be part of projects that's not in their primary job description. So it's all about that OJT. So I like to submerge my team members in different projects that are out of their comfort zone so they learn. So either they're there to shadow somebody or they're going to be an active participant, but it stretches them as far as knowledge base, just the way I learned.
Great. And last question for you. What is the skill that you found most transferable from the military to your current position? Actually, I have one more question after that. What's the skill or skills that you found most transferable?
Being a team member and wanting the group to succeed more than individual accolades or any celebrations. I graded myself on if we accomplished the mission, so to speak. So.
Awesome. And we have only about 2 minutes here. So what advice would you give to anyone who is thinking of transitioning into the military who doesn't know anything about life sciences, but thinks it sounds cool?
You mean transferring from the military or to the military?
From.
Okay. So most people will answer any questions that you have. One of the things that we're starting to have conversations about is informally having folks come in and job shadow us to see what different flavors are. There should be dedicated recruiters in life science entities that focus on veteran outreach. And if anyone is utilizing something like the GI Bill, a lot of the academic institutions now have outreach programs. So it's like the University of Pittsburgh, we meet with the Veteran Council and they will have job fairs just focused on veterans who are potentially interested in life sciences. And we've also done job fairs with Wounded Warrior. So I don't think you can ever have too many advocates. Through LinkedIn, Wounded Warrior, academic institutions, call me, if they call Karen too, but I'll just throw you out there on the bus. But you can never have too many champions or someone to actually, show you looking through a lens what it could be. And so I think the appetite is there especially in the life sciences and biocom, that they want to pull more talented people with different diverse skill sets. So I would just say, raise your hand.
Okay, great. Well, Howard, do we have any more questions? Oh, you're muted.
We do have one more. Can you describe the culture at Thermo Fisher?
Yes, and I've been there a long time, so it's definitely morphed. We even have, I've never been more proud of the organization. We even had a team get together from all these different sections to talk about different ways to improve ourselves and what do we look like and are we reflective of our community? Do you bring your whole self to work? How do we get overlap for different teams? I would say it's extremely inclusive, and even to the part where we're starting to even change who interviews somebody. So maybe if someone's a vice president interviewing for vice president job, we'll bring someone in that's less tenured in a different age group so that they can see we can see what lens they look at the person, the applicant, through also. So I would say it's extremely inclusive, and there's a lot of things that are going on right now. And like I said, anyone on this call can call me, email me, contact me through LinkedIn, and we can talk about it, what their primary interests are. That's, I'm an open book.
Thank you so much, Heather. We really appreciate your input, and that was an amazing story. I think everybody at the symposium has a different story, and nobody has gone on a straight path. So we look forward to seeing more from you on LinkedIn. And if you want to go ahead and put your LinkedIn in the chat, that would be great. And we don't have any official breaks during this session. So we would like to simply allow you just a 3-minute break here to grab some coffee, take a bio break. And then when we come back, Vicki will be introducing Karmin Noar, who is our amazing and wonderful visionary executive director for Biocom California Institute. So if we all can just go ahead and take a break for about 3 minutes, then Karmin will be back to join us. And Heather has just posted her LinkedIn information in the chat. Thank you for being with us, Heather, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And if you can, join us for the virtual networking. I know it's going to be a little late your time, but if you want to go ahead and join us for our virtual networking event and have a Thermo Fisher table, then just go on in. I'll send you the link.
Thank you. And just again, for everybody, I appreciate the time. I know you're all very busy, so I'm thankful that you gave up the time to communicate. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you had a chance to take a little quick break, a little stretch. I'd now like to introduce you to Biocom Institute's Executive Director, Karmin Noar, who's going to talk to us about our latest workforce trends report to be released this week. So you're getting it kind of hot off the press here. The Life Science Workforce Trends Report provides insight into the most pressing talent needs of the life science industry, as well as key trends that are driving talent acquisition. Produced biannually, both nationally and for the state of California, this real-time data on the demand for talent is vital to sustaining growth and ensuring a regional and national competitive advantage in the life sciences industry. Karmin will be sharing information about various types of career opportunities in the life science industry, not all of which require a background or degree in science, as you just heard from our keynote, Heather. So welcome, Karmin.
Thank you so much, Vicki. Let me share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen and hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to the Veteran Symposium for 2021. We're thrilled that this is our first statewide symposium, and I know many of you are joining from across California. I'm thrilled to talk to you today about careers in life sciences, but also just trends in general, workforce trends specific to the life sciences industry. So most recently, Biocom California which we are an affiliate of, and the trade association representing over 1,500 companies, released its economic impact report just recently. According to this report, the life sciences industry supports more than 1.3 million jobs in the state. The industry generated $405 billion in state economic activity and generated $131 billion of labor income.
Karmin, I'm sorry. I see that people can't see the slide. It's zoomed in.
Okay, let me try something else. 1 minute.
Thank you, Edward, for pointing that out.
Okay, you may have to just avoid presenter view to make sure you can see. Is this better?
I can see just fine. Yes, that is better.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll avoid presenter view, or we'll cut off my slides. Okay, so we'll keep going. So recently we released our economic impact report. And again, the industry supports about 1.3 million jobs and generates $405 billion in state economic activity. I know that these figures are all for 2020. The industry continues to be a key driver of economic growth and innovation, employing people in 6 sectors. So as you can see, the life sciences is made up of biotechnology, biopharmaceuticals, medical devices and equipment, research and manufacturing, scientific and research tools, food and agriculture, biotech. And you can see the definitions, which I will go through quickly. As biotechnology, in summary, it's technology that utilizes living organisms or biological systems or parts of that to create products. Biopharmaceuticals is there's pharmaceutical manufacturers, a wide range of products as well as distributors. Medical devices and equipment, they're typically manufacturing products for healthcare. Research and manufacturing, we refer to as research and development, conducted at colleges, universities, or in private medical labs. Scientific and research tools, it's those that manufacture lab instruments, chemicals, and other devices. And then we also have food and agriculture, biotech. So this refers to, for example, cellular grown meat and seafood, as well as biorenewables used in agriculture and crop production. And you can see that despite the disruptions of the pandemic, the life sciences industry experienced overall growth in jobs. And this was all across California, whereas the state experienced a 7.4% drop in total jobs. The life sciences continue to have more jobs. And these are just some of the global leaders in life sciences that make California home. So you may have heard, you just heard from Thermo Fisher Scientific. We have Bayer, we have Amgen, AbbVie, Dexcom, Illumina, Gilead, Takeda, Amgen. Again, these are just some of the global, more mature companies in our state. If you're not familiar with these companies, I encourage you to look them up, just Google them and learn more about them, learn more about their services and products, and look up their careers page to see what kinds of opportunities are available. So as you can see, there are vast and exciting careers available in the life sciences industry that are well-paying, interesting, mission-driven jobs that provide lifelong learning opportunities. Yes, while some of these jobs are scientists and engineers, many of them are not. The industry needs employees in a variety of areas, such as manufacturing, project management, supply chain, logistics, information technology, regulatory and quality assurance, human resources, facilities management, operations, marketing, and more. And if these jobs sound familiar to you, that's because you may know that these jobs are jobs that exist, not just in life science companies, but in many other companies within any industry. We often hear from veterans that they face challenges finding employment, translating their skills into a civilian career, and having to work with a supervisor who may or may not understand or appreciate military culture. And we at Biocom California and Biocom California Institute believe that veterans have desirable technical and soft skills, whether that's teamwork, communication, leadership, problem-solving abilities. They're driven by mission, the ability to adapt quickly, have the education background, and I could go on and on. But many are simply just unaware of the opportunities in the life sciences industry, or may not have the specific industry knowledge or experience. Others may think that a career in the life science industry is beyond their skill set, requiring an extensive scientific background, many years of schooling, or prior work experience in the industry. But we're here to tell you that life science leaders value the current veteran military workforce at their companies, and we're here to facilitate those connections and provide the resources and experience to help you transition to a career in life science. We're also seeing that many organizations are going to greater lengths to hire veterans, especially life science companies. And it's not simply a check the box exercise, it's the pairing between the life science industry and veterans. It just makes a lot of sense. Both are incredibly mission driven, both exist to save lives, both stand to benefit tremendously from this crossover. We're also seeing a shift toward companies embracing and promoting the diversity of their employees, whether it's through employee-led resource groups, partnering with veteran serving organizations. There are many out there in San Diego, Los Angeles, and the Bay Area. Whether it's through volunteerism, companies are shifting their approach to better incorporate the veteran's perspective into the company culture. And it's been a pleasure seeing many of you and many veterans advancing into leadership roles, and not just taking on leadership roles, but participating in building out the company's strategic framework and veterans initiatives, and making sure that veterans are part of that strategic framework. And so with that, I'm pleased to share some of the, as a preview of our workforce trends report that we are releasing tomorrow, in fact. And so this is a report that we put together every other year to uncover the trends in our industry, and to better inform educators and legislators, as well as job seekers and learners, about what is it that life science companies are hiring for and what are the skills that are needed. And again, with the goal of helping with the ecosystem and continuing the success of the industry, as well as the success of the people in California. So here are the 5 trends. I will just read them out loud quickly. But the key 5 trends that may or may not be surprising to you is that the industry remains resilient, demonstrating stability and growth, even with the global pandemic. Also, COVID, the pandemic just changed the way we think about work and the workplace. It's really forced employers to reimagine the future of work and to consider remote and flexible work models. Soft skills. We continue to hear that soft skills are important to the industry. And some of the soft skills that we heard from employers are adaptability, resilience, and communication. These were some of the top skills that we continue year after year to hear from employers that are important. Also, there were new initiatives and more initiatives around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, specific to our industry, and we know that we can and must do more. And we also saw more new energy behind industry academic collaborations, addressing the shifting demands for talent. And we know that it takes everyone in our ecosystem, whether it's the employers, the educators, government, community-based organizations, all of us working together to make sure that we have the workforce needed to help the industry thrive. So who's hiring in California? So these are the 15 companies that have the most unique job postings. And those companies are Thermo Fisher Scientific, Amgen, Abbott, Danaher Corporation, Medtronic, Gilead Sciences, Genentech, Roche, Quest Diagnostics, Johnson & Johnson, Edwards Life Sciences, IQVIA, Illumina, Lab Corporation of America, and Pfizer. So again, these are the top employers in California. Again, if you're not familiar with these companies, I encourage all of you to look them up, and I will share more about our career portal in a moment. This is just a breakdown of job postings in California by major life science subsector. And again, we have a lot of need in drugs and pharmaceuticals, as well as medical devices and equipment. And so for this report, I forgot to mention that for this report, we surveyed human resources professionals, we interviewed executives, and we also looked at job postings over the last 4 years. And these were the leading technical and production related job titles. So there's a demand for scientists, quality assurance, data scientists, medical sciences, technicians, regulatory affairs, software engineers, medical directors, clinical research associates, medical science liaisons, and technicians. So we encourage you, again, this report comes out tomorrow. We'll have more information so that you can get more familiar with what the types of jobs these are. And so this last slide is just to show you the education and experience requirements that we saw in the job postings. So it's degree requirements. There were quite a lot of job postings, about 48% that required a bachelor's degree, but we're starting to see a shift. And we're also seeing that, again, not every job out there requires a 4-year degree. There are some jobs that you can do with just a high school or GED or an associate's degree. And experience. This was interesting because there are quite a lot of job postings that listed that no experience was required. So this is just to give you an idea of, again, the degree requirements and experience requirements. So that's just a short summary of the workforce trends report that we are releasing tomorrow. We will be sure to share it with all of you. And again, the goal is for that report to inform job seekers, learners, educators, legislators, and also to help employers. I do want to take a moment to plug our career portal. We're hoping that this is the go-to resource for life science, all things life science careers. So if you have a moment, we'll drop it in the chat. But the website is called careerlab.biocominstitute.org. So if you're interested in seeing who's currently hired, if you're interested in learning more about the different types of careers or different articles that may help you with your transition, please check out careerlab.biocominstitute.org. So with that, I'm thrilled that you're here with us to learn more about the various career opportunities in the life sciences, and hope that you will leave inspired today and consider pursuing a job or a career in the life sciences industry. Thank you so much for being here, and that concludes my presentation, and I will turn it back over to Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karmin, for that incredibly informative presentation. We are going to take another little quick break, but I wanted to point out that also Evan Wall from Catalent has said that they are hiring as well. So check out Catalent as well. And Evan, if you would like to pop your website into the chat, we can advertise for that. But we are going to take a few minutes to breathe again. And then in the second session, representatives of the 4 main categories of life science companies are going to take us on a deep dive into the life science sectors and how they contribute to the industry. So if we will go ahead and just take a brief pause, I believe we have just about 2 minutes. So go ahead and take a brief break. Thank you again, Karmin. Have a wonderful day. Hey, welcome back. I'm sure our participants learned a lot from that survey, Karmin. And now we're going to go into our panel. So representing biotech and pharma is Matt Aguilar, Director, Project Management Office at Dendreon. And representing medical devices, equipment, and products is Nick Bellenbaum, SkillBridge and Internship Manager at Becton Dickinson. Representing scientific equipment is Travis Dickerson, Project Manager, Spine R&D at NuVasive. And our final panelist representing Life Sciences Research and Lab Services is Mike Jones, Director, Business Technology Infrastructure for Millennium Health. And our panel will be moderated by Michelle Nemitz, Executive Director, Bay Area Biocom, California. So welcome, Michelle and panelists.
Thank you, Karen. This is Michelle. I don't know if you guys can see me. Let's see if I can get my screen a little bit better here. Yeah, so it's nice to see all of you. Thank you, Karen, for inviting me to moderate this panel today. I'm looking forward to talking to these 4 gentlemen about their journeys through the life science industry. It was interesting to listen to Karmin give a sneak preview on the workforce trends report that's coming out later this week. I know I work up here in the Bay Area and I manage Biocom California's office in South San Francisco. And one of the things I hear the most from our members is that they're having challenges hiring enough people. And so I'm excited to talk about some of the opportunities, some of the industries and the subsectors that might be of interest to all of you, and hopefully to help these companies that are doing such amazing and good work find the workers that they need. Like Heather earlier today, she mentioned that she joined this industry without a science degree. And so did I. I joined the industry back in 1995. So I've been in the life science industry for going on close to 30 years now, and I don't have a science degree. And I've been able to have a really productive career for that amount of time. And I've worked at big companies and small companies. And now I work for a trade association supporting all these companies up here. And I think that's one of the biggest myths about the industry is that you need a science degree. There are lots of jobs where you don't need a science degree and your services and your skills are very much needed. So like many of you, probably, I didn't have any exposure to the industry either. So I kind of stumbled on this and I'm so glad I did. I've had a great career. So I'm excited to dive in and talk to our panelists today. We have Matt Aguilar and Nick Bellenbaum and Travis Dickerson and Mike Jones. So gentlemen, why don't we take a moment and just go around and have each of you introduce yourselves really quickly and just tell us what company you're working for and what your current job is. So Mike, why don't we start with you?
Thanks, Michelle. Obviously, I'm Mike Jones. You can see my name on the screen there. I'm responsible for the technology, the infrastructure, the engineering, the security, the direct support, and just the general IT operations for Millennium Health. Millennium Health is a specialty lab. We're a tox screening lab, so we fall into that kind of testing and research and development group of companies there. In addition to that, though, because of the volume, we run anywhere between probably 6,000 and 8,000 tests a day. And that obviously generates a pretty substantial amount of data. When you think about the tests just independently and individually, that's a lot of data. But when you think each one of those tests can have 3, 4, sometimes 5 different panels in them, millions and millions of data points every year that we generate. So we've learned to kind of package that and leverage it to help kind of spot those trends in almost real time. Drug use and addiction across the United States, which drugs are being used with which. So it's really exciting that way.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that's really interesting. We'll dive into that a little bit more further in the conversation. Travis, how about you?
Hi, I'm Travis Dickerson. So I work for Nuvasive as a project manager in our R&D group. Nuvasive is a medical device company that specializes in everything spine, right? So everything that you need to conduct a back surgery, from the implants that go into the body to the instrument to the navigation equipment, right? Or the neural monitoring equipment to promote safer, more effective surgeries. So I'm a PM, by trade. I love it. I have a science degree, but I still think that it's definitely a career path that anybody could go down. PMP is definitely a very kind of malleable, certification, and there are a lot of different types of jobs just within that subcategory of biotech, right? So a lot of different routes that folks can go down.
That's great. Thank you, Travis. Nick.
Hey, how's everyone doing? So Nick Bellenbaum. So I work at a company called Becton Dickinson, BD. So we're a global size medical technology company, just about 70,000 people globally. Our headquarters in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, but our biggest presence is here in San Diego. So we have a couple of flagship products that we make here in San Diego, mostly with an infusion type of business and then dispensing cabinets. So I'm not going to go into our product details, but we have over 1,000 different products between the software and hardware. So we're a very matrix large company. So what I do in the company is I actually started in operations as a continuous improvement engineer, where I know Matt from on the call. Then I moved into global supply chain. And then I moved into as a product manager within marketing. So I was in marketing for a while, and now I run our Skill Bridge and internship program out of HR. So I've bounced around quite a bit in about 2.5 years of the company, which just shows that veterans could come in, learn whatever job it is without a science degree. I have a criminal justice background, and then just crush it and get promoted 4 times in 2.5 years. So my background is I was in the military for 20 years. I retired 2.5 years ago. I was a SEAL for most of that time, and I retired out of San Diego. So I did 7 total deployments. I retired in 2019. Immediately next week, I got hired at BD and came in operations. That's a little bit about background about me.
That's
Thanks.
great, Nick. Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate that. Matt, why don't we get a little bit about your background?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Aguilar. I'm Director of the Project Management Office at Dendreon Pharmaceuticals. We're based out of Seal Beach, smaller company. I have worked with Nick at BD, which is a giant company. Dendreon is roughly 600 plus, spread across 3 locations with the flag at Seal Beach, a location in Atlanta, just outside, and in Seattle, where our R&D facilities are located. Our main drug is Provenge, which is a drug that treats late-stage prostate cancer. We have some other things on the runway that I won't go into. We also established a contract manufacturing division this year where we will be bringing in also late-stage manufacturing candidates. So I've been with the company now only about 8 months. I'm coming in from Life Science, Providence Health, and before that, BD, all the way back to my time with Genentech up in South City in 2005. So that's where I started my journey. I do not have a science background. I came in and just immediately moved into different positions, kind of like Nick did. You move through, you kind of feel your way, and then you latch on to something that matters, that's meaningful to you. And project management, operational excellence, Lean Six Sigma applications, that was just my jam. So I got into that and I moved from different companies to where I am now. I have senior PMs reporting to me, all PMP certified. You know, it's a phenomenal opportunity. So I look forward to talking with everyone today about opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Matt. Let's dive in a little bit into each of your subsectors. You all work for companies that kind of speak to different subsectors within the big life science umbrella. So Nick, I want to start with you. You mentioned the SkillBridge program too. So if you could maybe take a moment and talk about the subsector that you work in, what kinds of companies work in that subsector, what kind of products do they make? You know, what does it do in general? And then why did you choose that subsector? And then also, if you could also speak to the SkillBridge program a little bit more, since you're very familiar with that, that would be helpful for the audience as well, please.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I'll cover most of the products we make here in San Diego. So like I said, we make a lot of different products. So if you go in a hospital room, you got a 99% chance of running into at least one of our products in the hospital room. So the flagship products we make here in San Diego is if you go into a hospital and you see a nurse working at her station and it's connected to a big cabinet that has a bunch of module drawers, that's probably our dispensing cabinet. And we have a different variations of those all across the hospital. And then if you also go in a hospital room and you see anybody getting administered any kind of medication, so the machine pumping the medication, there's about a 65% chance that's ours. So we have the market share of those infusion pumps as well. And those are the 2 main ones we make here in San Diego. And then a slew of different types of software that we use across the OR and different types of functions as well we make in San Diego. And then so it's hard to describe just the niche that we have because we got our hands in everything. So we have labs, so we have manufacturing floors, production floors. So we're kind of all over the place. But the 2 I mentioned are the big ones in San Diego. So if you got hired on a BD in San Diego, it's a good chance you're either going to be working with our infusion products or our dispensing products in some fashion. Whether it's in operations, marketing, sales, supply chain, you know, we have all the jobs any other large corporate entity would have. And then as far as SkillBridge goes, I'll talk about SkillBridge all day. I think it's probably the best opportunity that's came along for military folks that I've seen as far as transition goes. And for everybody, I hope everyone who's listening, whose transition has at least heard of SkillBridge. If not, you probably want to look into it. It allows the active duty military folks that use up to their last 6 months of active duty time to work in a civilian company, basically cost-free to that company because you're still getting paid in the military. And what that affords the military person is that you get that industry experience and that technical experience that there's no other way you would gain that type of experience. And so personally speaking, when I transitioned, that's what hurt me. You know, I was getting interviews and making it pretty far up on interviews, but I was not competitive when it came to industry experience, and when it came to technical experience, I just wasn't competitive, especially in this industry, which is very highly competitive industry, and there's a lot of top talent that gravitates towards this industry. SkillBridge allows you to get a foot in the door, show the whole world that a military person can learn the job in 3 to 6 months, excel in the job, meet all deliverables, expectations, and that gives a warm and fuzzy to a hiring manager. Like, okay, I will roll the dice on this person because I've seen what they could do firsthand, instead of, you know, just trying to explain it over an interview. So that's why I'm a big fan of SkillBridge, and we rolled it out at BD about a year ago. We've had 11 fellows come through so far. We have 90% conversion rate, hiring rate out of those 11, and they're all doing really well. I haven't heard one complaint about any of those fellows, and it's, you know, the meaningful, impactful jobs as well. That's probably the other cool thing about SkillBridge. I took it anywhere I could find job, or in industry, really. These are more lateral transfers from the military. We got a lot of O5s, and, you know, O5s coming into management. We're you know, I see a leader in the military. Without this program, oftentimes, you know, we have to start back from the bottom, work your way up. That's another kind of plus about SkillBridge.
So Nick, how does one get connected to SkillsBridge? Is there a website they should go to, or how do they get connected to it?
Well, if you want to know more about the BD SkillBridge fellowship program, you talk to me. Just send an email out. I'll put it in the chat here, or reach out to me through LinkedIn. You know, I'm one of the only Bellenbaums you're going to find on LinkedIn, so it shouldn't be too hard. And then, but if you want to just broadly and see who's out there, you just go to the DoD SkillBridge website, and there's a list of all the companies that are approved, and you can scroll through there, see what companies that, you know, stick out to you, and then you literally just send an email to the companies that are on there. They have a link. But if you want to know any other questions, I mean, I'm happy to talk to anyone about it. There's also transitioning programs that anybody can reach out to, and they will help any transitioning veteran. A couple of them are 50 strong. Hiring our heroes. For special operations, you can reach out to the Honor Foundation, or just anybody who's passionate about the program can really guide you.
Oh, that's great. That's really helpful. And we had somebody in the audience named Teresa giving us hard eyes about the SkillBridge program. So she's a fan. So thanks for mentioning that and talking everybody through it, so more people are aware of it.
Yeah, Teresa's. You probably talked to her too. I've talked to Teresa many times. She's
Awesome.
Very knowledgeable about the subject as well.
Good. Thank you, Teresa, for your hard eyes and your kind comment. Travis, why don't we hear from you on working in the scientific equipment sector?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a different path than Nick here. I really wish I had SkillBridge. Actually, I guess I had a similar path to Nick in the sense of definitely had to do kind of a lot of my own, figuring out of the hiring process. However, the thing that really kind of helped me get across the finish line was Biocom. So I was part of the Biocom mentorship program, and I was brought into that program for about a year. And the thing that I really loved about it, and what I found was particularly different than a lot of the other resources that I used at the time, was that Biocom got me to industry events, right? It gave me exposure specifically to this industry, which I was definitely interested in. And it got me exposure with a kind of a limited pool of other veterans, right? So I actually ended up getting my current position after attending a Biocom, essentially purchasing event, where I talked to one of the administrative assistants of our president at the time, and she forwarded my resume along. So literally a kind of a cocktail hour, just kind of struck up a conversation, gave a quick kind of elevator pitch. And I was able to, get my resume, seen by somebody instead of going through an HR portal. So I would definitely advocate not only for SkillBridge, but also for, the programs that Biocom puts on to support vets, because it really is a great way to, understand the industry, get exposure to the industry, meet people outside of just kind of your veteran networking bubble, and start to kind of expand your horizons. So got hired on by NuVasive, I think it was about 3 years back now. And since then, like I said, I've been working in the spine R&D group. So I am a project manager on a lot of our new development pipeline and a lot of the projects that we have coming through. So definitely think it's a fascinating and interesting, career set. We do everything from initial concept ideation to developing and 3D printing the actual device, throwing it into a cadaver. We have on-site labs. Like all this stuff has to obviously be tested to be approved through the FDA, and then finally obviously the kind of the development and launch and commercialization of products. So definitely a very interesting career path, but that's just one small little area, right? So I work with project management with an R&D group, but we have project managers all across our organization. We have folks in IT. We have technicians and machinists that work in our shop. We have technicians that work on all of our actual X-ray equipment, right, for cadaver labs. So there's just a wealth of opportunities, not only at my particular company, but across the industry, in which you don't necessarily have to have a strong science background or a PhD in molecular biology or something to succeed.
Yeah, that's great, Travis. I appreciate that. I just want to make one comment on what you said about networking, because I think it's really, really important. And I know for myself, when I was starting out in the industry, and even now, I'm not really comfortable networking, generally speaking, like hitting a cocktail hour cold and going in and meeting a bunch of people I've never met before. I feel that it's kind of an awkward experience for me. But one thing I know is that in this industry, networking is a really big part of it. And everybody is usually there because they're networking. So it's not like you're the one who wants to meet everyone in the room. Everyone in the room wants to meet everyone in the room. And I have to tell myself that every time I go into one of these events, just so that I don't feel so awkward doing it, just knowing that everyone's here for exactly the same reason. We've got an hour or an hour and a half. Let's make the most of it. And it's so rewarding in the end. I'm always so glad that I did it, even though I'm always scared going in. So
yeah, I would
just throw that out there.
Yeah, I would echo the exact same thing. It's hard. It's hard to go into those cold situations. But that's one of the things that I think I particularly liked about Biocom, right? Is not only is everybody there, to network, but you are also networking with people in the industry who, frankly, in a lot of ways are more curious about you, right? Because you're the outlier. So it's not a typical veterans networking event where it's 100 people that just got out of the military that all know what they're what each other do, and 5 or 6 employers, but rather it's kind of the inverse of that. It's 100 employers in a room, and only a few veterans, and folks really do tend to be interested and want to talk, and just kind of get to know you. So it does make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and like I said, at least here in the Bay Area, they're all hiring. So you're the wanted commodity right now.
Yeah.
So that's nice too. So thanks, Travis. That was great. Mike, why don't we move on to you and learn a little bit about your company and the sector that you represent, which is life science research and lab services.
Absolutely. So my path was kind of long and meandering. So I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I got out and I wanted to stay in San Diego. And if you're going to live and work in San Diego, you're going to work in one of 4 industries, right? You're going to work in defense, you're going to work in the service industry, you're going to work in life science, or you're going to work in retail, right? That's pretty much it. Well, I got out and I worked in defense. I worked for General Dynamics for 9 years while I went to school. I knew I didn't want to do that for a career though. So computers were kind of new and exciting to me, and I just kind of fell into them, right? So from there, I went into retail and high-end retail and things like that. Companies like Perch and Barbecues Galore and things like that on massive expansion paths. And life science was the only one I hadn't tried, and it's funny how I fell into it, because I'd done so much traveling as part of work, for years and years and years. I was just exhausted from it. And so top of my list for my next engagement was that all the buildings had to be within walking distance, one location, and this fit the bill. It's not sexy, okay? I'll be honest with you right there. Look, we test urine for drugs, okay? But when you think about it a little bit deeper, right? I took it a little bit of selfish reasons, right? All the buildings in one place, and it's 2 miles from my house, which is not bad. It's when I got to kind of know the organization and really kind of make the connections what they're doing. It's manufacturing, right? Things come in the front door in a bottle, they get processed, a result's created, and that goes to the customer. It's the same concepts, right? It's all about efficiency and workflow and, the efficient use of space and things like that, which is really kind of, in a geeky way, it's a little bit exciting for me. But when you think about the impact of it though, our customers, our patients, these are folks that are battling addiction, right? On one hand, that's what we're doing, is we're helping folks get control of that, right? We're helping their practitioners and clinicians and doctors get them through this addiction epidemic. On the other side of the equation, we're also helping doctors and clinicians find the right medications in the right doses and the right saturations to effectively treat people that have chronic pain. That stuff matters. And one of the things we had a town hall meeting not too long ago where the sales team was talking about, why they enjoy doing what we do in this industry. And one of them told a short story about somebody who, this test that we were doing, it was going to determine whether or not this person was allowed to see their child again. So that is really one of the things that appeals to me a lot, is my work has to matter. And I think that's, I don't know if the military breeds that or attracts that, right? But as a Marine, I've just always been that way. So like I said, selfish reasons to take it, but once I got in and once I started learning the industry and stuff and what they do and how it impacts people, it really kind of takes root.
Yeah, that's an awesome comment, and thank you for the background. And I will just 100% agree with you that this industry is full of people who come with that mindset and that mission-driven sense of purpose to really address unmet medical needs or create equipment, that can help the spine or whatever it is, right? Becton Dickinson is doing all kinds of hospital equipment and field equipment that people need for medical applications around the world. Everybody in this industry that I've come across in my long tenure really comes with that sense of purpose and mission-driven attitude. Makes it really, you feel like you're part of something special within your company, but even in a larger sense within the industry at large. So, well, we haven't talked to any companies yet that make drugs. I think when people think of the life science companies, they think of pharmaceuticals, right? They think of drugs, and that's kind of what gets all the headlines, but it's such a diverse industry. Many subsectors doing all different kinds of work. And so, Matt, that brings us to you. We get to hear about what Dendreon Pharmaceuticals is doing.
What Dendreon's doing is a true niche subsector, cell culture therapy, that is harvesting cells from a person who has prostate cancer, sending that to a manufacturing facility in either Atlanta or Seal Beach, us applying our drug product Provenge, fermenting it like it's beer, and then sending it back to that patient so that it can be re-injected into their body so that it can begin to kill the cancer cells. And this is fascinating science. And it is pharmaceutical, but it's still biotech because you're taking the cells from a person's body. You're not creating as much out of a lab and creating something like a Pfizer would or a Merck would. So having that specialized type of therapy, kind of like what Kite Technologies and a few others are doing, but not many, is fascinating to me. Now, when Phil Dana reached out to me on LinkedIn, and Phil is our VP of HR. Phil would be in this chair right now, but he's at a leadership team conference. So when he reached out, that's what he said. He goes, "You ever been impacted by cancer?" I said, "Both my parents." It's personal, and then to speak to Mike's point, you get on a path where you just want to attack something that is harmful to everybody, and cancer's touched us all. So having that ability to work in this sector has been just amazing. And in my case, in the company's case, they have plenty of solid science people. What they need are project management people, the people that make the, kind of like BASF, we don't make the product, we make it better. So there you go. That's the project management. That's the OpEx. That's the supply chain. That's finance. That's HR. We need HR professionals bad right now. So having that ability to come into a company like this, where it is a personal thing with regards to the attack on prostate cancer, is huge. And I love the environment. It's a small town environment because we are a smaller company, but everybody has that mission. You see all the testimonials and all the posters of patients on the walls, just like Genentech had at Vacaville when I was there. And to me, that just pumps you up. You come in ready to do your thing, and everybody's doing what they have to do to make it go. Fascinating culture, fascinating industry,
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. Thank you. I know there's a company up here in the Bay Area, and they have a wall, and all the employees can bring in pictures of people that they hold in their hearts that have died from cancer. And it's an oncology company. And so, they've got this whole wall of personal photos of the employees that work there. And that's why they come in every day. It's really impactful. They're doing really important work, and that keeps them very focused on it. So that's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the jobs that are critical to your sector. I don't know who wants to start here, but you guys can decide who wants to start. But let's talk about what types of jobs are really critical and what types of skills are really, really critical. And Karmin, in her earlier presentation, mentioned that the hiring executives of the industry mentioned soft skills were important. Soft skills like adaptability and critical thinking and things like that. So I just want to keep that a little bit at the forefront as well. Does anybody want to start and talk about jobs and skills that are really important to your sector?
I know I made mention of the back office functions, the HR, the finance, supply chain. We need that. But coming into a company like Dendron, it is the soft skills. We know we have folks with science degrees. I have a business background. Most of us have something that's other than science. But being able to come in and take in opportunities or problems, be able to analyze them objectively, openly, using data, being able to put a plan together, and then being able to execute a plan to certain time dates to get to some outcome that is hopefully repeatable, if it's not a one-off, is huge for us. And again, and I know I made mention of this before, that for military folks, that's just kind of how we're wired. We're wired to look at objectives and what's the objective and what's it going to take to get from here to there. And, what's the sound planning techniques that we have to have, and how do we engage all the people in our platoons to be able to do the things they need to do. It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah, I'll second that. I've been active in the Biocom Institute's fellowship program for about 3 years now. And it's one of the early conversations that I have with veterans that are coming straight out of service, right? Is look, you're going to hit the ground and you're going to excel so fast, just based on your makeup and kind of how you're built. Your biggest challenge is going to be avoiding a wake of death and destruction as you get things done. You've really got to put the speed brakes on, right? And those soft skills are so critical in today's business. At Millennium, in fact, our entire evaluation system is built around not what you got done, but how you got it done. It's tied directly to, kind of our core tenets. And those core tenets are like, do the right thing, always prioritize integrity first, those sorts of things. And so, and I think that's business in general today. It's all kind of leaning that way where how you get things done is as important or even more important than what you get done while you're there.
Yeah, and I think that kind of pivots to, what I was going to say to build on Matt's point, which is change management, right? So, being able to not only put together that plan, but then to go execute on it, to Mike's point, in a way that's effective, brings everybody on board, kind of creates a team and gets everybody moving in the correct direction. That's a desperately needed skill, being able to, manage change, and to get everybody on board with, a new process or new software system or whatever it may be, folks can be a little resistant at times. And there are definitely some soft skills, right, that I think that we have coming out of the military, right, where we know how to kind of, influence even on that peer level, right, and be able to kind of move the needle because of those change management skills. So I would say that's one of the kind of biggest skill sets that any vet brings to the table.
Good call, Travis. Right on.
I guess from my take, so if we're talking about critical jobs, for one, just talking to the transitioning folks out there, you're not going to know what these jobs are, most likely. Like at least I didn't. So when you're going down, we're talking about all these different functions. So you've got sales and marketing and operations. When I heard operations, I thought of an op boss up in operations and headquarters. That's what I thought. It then turns out it's manufacturing. So I would lean on any of us that are out here that have been doing it for a little bit. Lean on us what all these mean and get some coaching. It's only going to help you understand these jobs. Like for example, in the program I run, everybody wants to be a program manager or project manager because that's the only thing I understand out of all the jobs. Like I don't know what anything else means. And it turns out, like sales, for example, sales has probably one of the best cultures in our company. And when you talk to military folks, so they think of sales of a person in the corner with a headset trying to like convince people to buy something. And it's pretty much so far away from that it's crazy once you learn what sales is all about. And they got a great culture. And it's like that for every function. They got these pockets of cultures that are just great military fits, but you would never know it in the military because we never heard of them. So there's all kinds of critical jobs in each one of those. So I would recommend just reaching out, have a cup of coffee with anybody in the industry and just learning more about each one of those functions. And who knows, maybe that's the one for you.
Yeah, Nick, that's a really important point. Thank you for bringing that up, because we who work in the industry, I think we say these titles assuming that people know what they mean, but, operations here means something different than operations there. So that's a really good point. And I guess maybe a tip would be, as you go about and start networking and, connecting with these mentors and going to networking events and whatnot, seek out different kinds of people doing different kinds of jobs, right? Learn what that title means. Because a lot of times the name tag will have their name, their title, and their company. So like, what is, whatever your title is, what does that job do? Just start there. That's how you break the ice at your networking events. Very good tip, Nick. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I would also say that it's almost easier to check off what jobs you don't want to do than it is like what you do want to do. If you have the list of like, oh, I want to find out about these, then you talk to people in those functions and you're like, yeah, that sounds terrible. And then it's easier to get like narrow your aperture that way than it is to like try to like, oh, that sounds interesting. So that's kind of what I learned in my past.
IT, maybe give the IT guys 2 or 3 tries before you check that one out.
At least.
Oh, that's good. Can we pivot a little bit and talk about any kind of struggles that you guys might have had making your transition from military service to the life sciences industry? It's an awesome industry. There's awesome people working in it. And you guys are making amazing products that are really, really, really important. But it's not all roses, right? I mean, we struggle. We have challenges. We run into brick walls occasionally. Can you guys talk about some of the challenges you might have run into and how you overcame them? Anybody want to go first?
Yeah, so I would say most of my challenges have not come post-hiring, right? That's been the easy part. To Nick's point, we have a lot of good skills that we can bring to bear. And getting up to speed really quickly is something I think that all of us are pretty familiar with. So that wasn't the hard part. It was kind of getting a foot in the door to begin with. And just learning all those skills that we're not used to, right? How to interview, how to do an elevator pitch, just really practicing those kind of muscles. Frankly, being able to talk about your accomplishments, right? That is something that nobody in the military is good at. Nobody, right? All of us are way too humble, and it's really hard to sit in the middle of an interview and list off the things that you did, right? So just being able to kind of reset your headspace, right? And demonstrate some of the skills that you need to be able to demonstrate in interviews and throughout the hiring process, I think was one of the more challenging things for me, at least.
I think for me, it was figuring out what I wanted to do. I was a military policeman, criminal investigator. My whole background was law enforcement in the Army, some 10 years plus. The I was lucky and fortunate that my father at the time was a senior director of manufacturing at a disk drive company in San Jose, Western Digital. But I didn't know what he did. And he says, well, son, why don't I send you to one of our machine shops and you can just kind of figure it out. And he sent me to a machine shop that was owned by a very tough Swiss guy who ran it like the army. And so I was used to that. And so he just said, here, find a niche, find out what you can do. And again, it's like being sent out into the woods without a compass, and no stars to guide by. So trying to figure out what you wanted to do, I said, okay, I always was good with art. I want to draw. I learned CAD. I started out in AutoCAD, drafting, designing, going into 3D modeling. You just kind of maneuver until you find your niche. But for me, it was first coming out of service going, now what? What do I want to do? Not so much what can I do out there, but what do I want to do? So that was a struggle. But once I got past that, then you go into companies, and I was with Motorola, a fantastic company. And I could see the things, the path clearing and what I wanted to do became more apparent. So when a recruiter came to me from Genentech, she scared the heck out of me. And I was like, Genentech, they make cancer drugs. So what do I don't have that background. I can't do that. She was like selling me. She goes, listen, you got a Six Sigma green belt. You're managing engineering design services. You can do these things. She goes, we're looking for somebody to stand up this new group called operational excellence. You're going to change the way the business operates. And when she said that, I was sold. So I said, I don't know what it is and what they want me to do, but if that's what we need to do, if that's the objective, I'm in. So.
Yeah, that's an awesome story, Matt. One thing I just want to interject there is I think maybe, I don't know, maybe people do know this, but the life science industry is heavily regulated, not only in terms of getting products approved by the FDA, but the whole process of operating the facilities, until you have a product to submit to the FDA, all of that is heavily regulated. And compliance is first and foremost, I think, in most employees' minds as they're working in these types of companies. And that's very similar to the military in some ways, I would think. I haven't been in the military, but it seems like it would be very similar type of experience where you would fit into that kind of situation based on some of the background that you had with your service. Thank you for that, Matt. Anyone else want to talk about any struggles or brick walls they might have run into and how they got around them?
I guess I already covered. Let's go into kind of more detail, I guess. So I found this through the Simon Sinek Finding Your Why course. When I transitioned out, I was like, I'll take a management job anywhere. Didn't really matter. But then going through that course, I definitely found I wanted to continue to help people, and in some capacity. And so that's where I found this industry, because I'm not going to make a widget. And that doesn't really impact what I do on a daily basis. At the end of the day, we're saving patients' lives. So it has a good why statement. So when you make that determination to be in this industry, you also got to know it's going to be very hard as a veteran with no industry experience. So you got to kind of figure out how to navigate around that. And that's almost all through networking. I would say don't apply for any jobs until you get a referral into it. So meet people within the company, try to get referral. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in the HR stack, and your odds of beating that algorithm to getting an interview is unlikely. So make sure you get a referral. You network your way in, and then don't stop there. Then once you get into the company, you're still going to be bogged down by no industry or technical experience, although you're going to have more leadership experience than 90% of the people in your building probably. So you're going to have to keep networking. And if you keep doing that, and when you show some leadership ability and some worth, the companies want to keep you, and your networking is going to allow you to go laterally other places, maybe that you want to grow within the business. So don't stop in your little function, because we have a tendency to just get front side focus and just go head first and just go into the job and do really well, and that's good. But then we lose sight of the rest of the business, and that's where we're going to grow.
That's awesome. Thanks, Nick. Mike, did you have any last thoughts you wanted to share with anybody? I know we've just got a few minutes left here on our time.
I think the rest of the team hit it really well.
That's great. Kieran, I don't know if we need to leave time for Q&A here. I'm just looking at the clock, and we've got about 3 minutes left in our session.
Yes, if we would like to leave some time for Q&A.
I didn't realize how late it was.
That's okay. It's good. I mean, it's great. We love to hear the panelists' stories. I think that's the most important part. We had one question that was, I heard the panelists mention the PMI PMP certification was recommended. What certification do they recommend for product management?
That's a harder one. Being a PM, I have my PMP. I don't know, and Matt, maybe you can speak to this, if there's a product equivalent. And I think a lot of that's due to the fact that a lot of product management is specific to the product, right? From company to company. So oftentimes that, your experience working on a similar product at a different company is what's going to lend yourself, your ability to move into that product realm, right? So a lot of our product managers have some sort of clinical experience, either having previously worked in a hospital or previously have worked on specifically, spine, implants or instruments, right? So that's a little bit harder. Unfortunately, product management is specific to the product versus, the PMP is a larger kind of skill set. And you can apply a lot of those fundamentals of product management kind of across industry, regardless of, what the medium is, let's say.
Agree. I know when I was at the BD where Nick was just joining, I had a lot of interaction with the product management team. Most of those folks came out of sales and marketing, actually. They understood it so well, they could recite the material, data sheets in their sleep. They just knew it so well about the functionality, about its limits. And so those were the folks there. But certifications wise, I'm not aware of any product management.
Yeah, I can tell you my experience. So product management is kind of an apex position, right? Matt hit it. It's something that you develop you have to understand the business of the product, right? You have to understand the function of the product inside, outside, from the middle, in both directions. So to that end, it's a lot of sales folks that show some skills to be able to understand the business side of it, the manufacturing side of it, the cost and the revenue side of it as well.
Awesome, thank you. We have one last question for our one last minute, and this can be fielded by any of you. So what is the difference between a fellowship and an internship?
Yeah, I probably take this one. So that could be answered a couple different ways. So if we're talking about SkillBridge specifically, depending on what company you're talking about, they're going to call it a fellowship or an internship. If you're talking about what's the difference between an actual internship and a fellowship, is they're completely different. So internships are usually a program within a company that's strictly to student-based people, whether it's undergrad, graduate, or PhD, and it's going to be a different pipeline of applications. A fellowship is strictly SkillBridge. So you're going to be applying for a SkillBridge fellowship through the DoD through your command. So that's what a fellowship is. It's completely different. And in our company, that is a huge difference also because where expectations of an intern is going to be more of a junior person learning the job, learning soft skills. A fellowship is more of, we're going to put you in the pipeline for a leadership position because you're coming out of the military with so much leadership and soft skills and all that stuff that you already have. You just don't have that industry technical experience. So the SkillBridge is going to, complete that gap. The internship, the turnover, the hiring of an intern isn't as high as our company, and because it could be a sophomore or junior, maybe not coming into the workforce, and so the expectation of hiring it maybe isn't as high. With SkillBridge, they're transitioning out of the military and need a job, so the expectation is a little bit different. So that's kind of the primary differences.
That's great, Nick. Thank you. And I'll just add, I think the Biocom California Institute's Veterans Program is also a fellowship that helps prepare you for work in this industry. So a little bit different in terms of fellowship and internship. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mike, Matt, Travis, and Nick very much for a great conversation. I appreciated having a chance to talk to you, and I think it was really beneficial for our audience, or I hope it was. Thank you, Karen.
Sure. Also, thank you, Michelle. I definitely think we've learned a lot from this panel. Appreciate your time, Travis, Mike, Nick, and Matt. Thank you again. It was great conversation. We have another one of those little 4-minute breaks in between till we go on to our next session with 2 veterans who've successfully transitioned into the life sciences industry and are now working at Illumina. So we'll take a little 3-minute break and then we'll be back. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Now we're going to move into our session with 2 veterans who have successfully transitioned into the life sciences industry and are now working at Illumina. I'd like to welcome Chris Mcgrath and Martin Holdwin. Chris and Martin have both participated in the Biocom California Institute Veterans Initiative, and they've both gone on to be mentors to other fellows, and they've also served on our Veterans Committee. So good morning, Chris and Martin. Rather than reading your bios, since the participants already have those in their programs, I'll start by asking you to introduce yourselves. Chris, tell me a little bit about yourself that this audience would like to know.
Sure, I'll go with the short version because I think we got a bunch of different questions that are coming our way. So short version, former Navy submarine officer, went to U.S. Naval Academy, stationed in both Hawaii and San Diego. So very fortunate there. I am also a former professional poker player turned biotech professional. So the normal career path there to get to biotech, but been with Illumina for a little over 7 years, all in supply chain, where I primarily work on process improvement, a lot of different software implementations between purchasing, sourcing, and then I also work pretty closely with our quality organization on purchasing controls, because Illumina is an FDA and ISO certified medical device company. So I kind of have a little bit of a hybrid supply chain and quality role, which has been fun.
Excellent. Sounds challenging. And Martin, tell us a little bit about yourself if this audience would like to know.
Sure, Karen. And when I was coming out of the service, I heard rumors and stories about Chris. So he was a legend as I was transitioning out back in 2019. So I served in the Navy for about 20 years. I did a career as a surface warfare officer, primarily out of San Diego and Hawaii. It was terrible, but no, I really enjoyed it. The typical career path of serving on ships, serving on staffs, amphibs, working with the Marines, cruisers, minesweepers, carriers, ballistic missile defense, all that fun stuff that we all cling to as we serve. But I came to the Biocom Institute back in 2019. I stumbled across a veteran symposium and I sat there live, and I was turned on to the actual industry as opposed to like not being interested in it at all. So that was my turning point, was attending one of these symposiums. And I started to network and, had a connection with Illumina, both on what they did and personally, and then my interest. And I started working for Illumina back in 2019 when I retired. And I primarily work on new product introduction for our sequencing platforms. So we normally take out new platforms that we introduce into the market, and they haven't been out there before. And I'm part of the teams that make that happen.
Great, thank you. Well, to take a step back a little bit, what motivated you to join the military? So, and what was, specific experience in the military that might have taken you in the direction of transitioning out of the military to try something else? Chris, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah. So my family is a kind of a long history of being in the military. So like my grandfather was a submarine officer under Admiral Rickover, like starting way back then. My dad's 4 brothers were all in the Navy. My dad was actually in the Army, as in he got a ROTC scholarship to UConn. So I think come my junior year, when I started looking at schools, I grew up in Pennsylvania area, and Naval Academy wasn't too far, and it happened to be a good fit kind of academically and athletically, because I played tennis there, and I was just fortunate enough to get in. I looked at the Air Force Academy. It was a little far, being in Colorado, but I think the Navy was kind of a good choice for me. I had, and then I guess transitioning out, I really didn't have much of a clue on what I wanted to do. So I played poker for a little bit. And then once I started to look for a real job, I got connected with someone who was looking to help veterans. And he worked at Hewlett Packard and went through about a 6-week program with him. We just met once a week. He has now kind of commercialized that to kind of a 1-day symposium kind of thing. And I was just very fortunate to make some contacts there, and some people at HP, and ended up knowing some people at Illumina, and roundabout getting in that way. But it was a definite journey, but it was just very fortunate along the way to get help. And that's probably one of the recommendations I would make to everyone, is just to get connected. And because you're going to need some help. I got a lot of help to get where I am, and yeah, just make sure you network.
Great. And Martin, how about you? What motivated you to join the military? And tell us a little bit about your experience that I know you shared some previously, but.
Yes, I kind of jumped the gun there, but so I decided to join the military based on just some sense of service. I wanted to serve in some way, wasn't sure what I wanted to do in terms of service. And the Navy was just I was drawn to the Navy because I'm from El Paso, Texas, which is considered an Army town. and the Army wasn't a very attractive option for me. I wasn't interested in it. It was kind of when you live right close to that, you seem to want to not go towards what you see in front of you every day as you grow up. But the Navy was more exciting, close to the ocean. I wanted to be out at sea, and it fit my background. I was sitting in a high school physics class, and a couple of recruiters came in and said, "Hey, you could serve on a submarine and get this compensation." And it was really exciting. I said, "Hey, that's what I want to do." I was going to sign up and enlist right away after high school, but I was advised, "Hey, why don't you go to college? If you want to be in the military, become an officer." And I said, "Okay, that's the path I'm going to take." So being in the military was something that I was working towards, and it was going to be the Navy. And it wasn't a very straight path. I did a lot of internships as an electrical engineering undergrad, took some turns and made some decisions about, well, maybe I don't want to do the military. But then I came to the point where I accepted a job in Dallas with a company called Nortel. And I got a call that same week from Navy OCS about being accepted to a position. And I was like, well, I'll never get to serve in the Navy if I don't take this opportunity. I can always come back and work for a company again later. And so I made that decision, and the rest was like history. I didn't expect I'd serve 20 years, but that's what happened.
Great, thank you. And just about, as along the lines of what motivated you to join the military, what sparked your interest in the life science industry? What did you hear about the life science industry anywhere ahead of the symposium, or what sparked your interest in this type of field? Let's go with Chris.
Okay. It was kind of two things. So number one, I wanted to stay in San Diego. So my wife is from here, and I don't see us moving anytime soon, across the country. So wanted to stay in San Diego. Life science is a pretty big hub here in San Diego, and she had just started at Nuvasive when I was kind of starting my job search. So that kind of turned me on to the industry. And as I started to kind of look around, I think the values at Illumina, but as well as just kind of the industry as a whole, it's cutting edge stuff. What a lot of the companies are doing, and it's exciting. And I wanted to be a part of something that was exciting, because the Navy was definitely not boring. You're extremely busy, and I felt that way the last 7 years here, where I haven't really had a boring day. You're always learning something new, and that's been really, really exciting for me. So it was really kind of those two things that turned me on to life science industry.
Thank you. And Martin, how about you? What sparked your interest in the life science industry aside from our symposium?
Yeah, so I wanted to work in technology quite a bit, even though, what's technology? You don't really know what that is until you start looking around. And I found that you can work in technology, but not have a purpose. And what I was driven to is there's a reason behind the technology of what we create, the products we create. And it's earth-shattering of what's happening right now, because this company wasn't even born when I joined the Navy. So it took 20 years for this company, Illumina, to kind of get to where it is now, to where sequencers are being sold, and people are sequencing DNA and using it for COVID and virus surveillance and things that didn't happen back when I started to serve in the military. So this is a new type of technology, and like Chris said, it's going to change people's lives as the costs come down. And I get to be a part of that in a way. And the people that I work with are extremely talented, motivated, dedicated, ambitious, and I do everything I can just to keep up with them.
Awesome, great. And Chris, how did you learn about the Veterans Initiative?
Sure. Yeah. When I first started at Illumina, it was 6 months or a year in. I was kind of tasked to take a look at our office supplies supplier and see, are we getting a good deal? What's going on? And in a roundabout way, I got connected with Biocom, because you guys do a lot of sourcing for smaller companies, and we still partner with you even today. And so just got connected with the purchasing group, And then from there, after several conversations, kind of heard they were just starting a veterans initiative. So I kind of got roped in pretty early on. I don't know if it was at the beginning. If not, it was right after the beginning. And been involved ever since on the committee, which it's been pretty cool.
Great, thank you. How did you learn about the Veterans Initiative, Martin?
Actually, I learned about it through a random post. It was just a random post. Actually, it was for the symposium. So when I came to the symposium, even though I didn't want to come, and it was one of those days that I think you said in the flyer, just come in your uniform. And I actually just cut work a little bit during my lunchtime to come and participate. And then when I got there, I learned about the initiative. I think you barely started the mentorship initiative that same period of time when I showed up. So one thing led to another, being interested in what I learned at the symposium. And then I signed up for the fellowship and met a couple of great people that, some friends. I still keep in touch with my formerly assigned mentor, Santiago Beltran from, I think he was working at J&J now, but I met him when he was working as a principal packaging engineer for Nuvasive. But that's how I ended up kind of getting connected with the fellowship and the initiatives.
Great. And Chris, tell us about your experience in the fellowship, participating in the fellowship.
Sure. Yeah. So I've only been on the mentor side. And, just the advice that I would give is it's really, and being a mentee myself, when I was transitioning, there were a few different things that I got. I forget what it was called. It was 7 or 8 years ago now, but it was for veterans to help, with the transition. And it's really, you get out of it as much as you put in from the mentee side. And, from the work that, with, connecting with your mentor and going to events. And it's really, and the research you put in it, looking at companies, what you think you want to do, the different organizations within a company, talking to people. You really get out of it as much as you put in, because I've had some people that have put in a lot of work, some of my mentees, which is great, and they go on and do great things. And and if you don't as much, either you get lucky or you may be kind of stuck for a while. So that would be my one piece of recommendation as part of the program.
And Martin, how about you?
Yeah,
Chris, tell us about your experience participating in the fellowship.
Yeah, participating as a mentor, I've had an interesting couple of goes. The first time my mentee said, "Oh, I don't want to do anything with Biocom. I want to be an aviation mechanic." And I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with that? But I was able to connect him with someone that was in that field. So we did have some mentor sessions, but it just happened to be this person didn't understand what the Biocom Institute was all about. But I was able to do some mentorship and even have him consider Biocom or biotech as a potential career. And just like what Chris said, it's like you have a mentor, what can you learn from that person, and where can that person point you to? I mean, that person's not going to do all the homework for you. You have a lot of self inventory to get done, but that person is just going to help you, kind of point you in the right direction. And if you take their advice and take what they can provide you and run with it, that's probably the best thing that you're going to do.
Great. Well, I think you've already both answered my last question, but how did your military experience contribute to your success in the civilian workplace? And how did the fellowship contribute to your success?
Sure. Yeah, for me, it's really been, hard work, just, treating people with respect. It's not, this stuff is not rocket science. Like, it's pretty, unless you're in actually doing something like that, which some people are in this industry. I am not in supply chain. But one thing that actually has helped me is, because kind of this hybrid role that I have with working with quality, I've had a lot of interaction with, ISO auditors as well as FDA inspectors. And I would say, like, being calm under pressure, because we get that all across the military. And, you know, being at a company, it's very easy compared to that. And it's, you know, because I think it was kind of like a mock audit we did. And so it was one of the first ones. So I went in there, sat down like right next to the auditor, and everyone was like, oh, okay. But it was, I mean, compared to being in the military when, you know, you're on a submarine doing drills and you got 20 eyes looking at you on what to do next, this was extremely easy. And you see people get frazzled in that environment. So it's, you know, that training directly helped with what I've been able to do for the past, you know, 5 or 6 years, like in that role, which is kind of interesting that it correlated that specifically to something that I'm doing.
Awesome. Martin, how did your military experience contribute to your success at Illumina, and how did the fellowship contribute to your success?
Well, the fellowship that I'll start with the fellowship piece of it, because that's where you find out what you want to do and what you don't want to do, the networking piece, because there's so many things to do in the industry. Any industry you pick, you have to pick something. You know, Chris is doing supply and quality together, and that's not what I'm doing. And you have to be very specific. You can't be a generalist. There's no such thing as that, at least that I'm aware of. So the fellowship helps you find out what you want to do and ask questions and figure out, is this the day-to-day life that I want to live? And that fellowship helps you gain that kind of information. Now, going back to my military experience and how it's helped me become successful, well, I mean, your work, you're gaining work experience in the military. And like Chris said, you know, you're doing things that are semi-intense or very intense. And sometimes that intensity isn't there at work. I can just give an example of you know, hey, we're going to bring in a very high dollar filling system. This is a $7 million system. We're going to bring it into the building. We're going to bring it online and follow, you know, you want to make product on that. And if you're going to bring it in and you start asking questions like, you know, if I'm on a ship and I'm getting underway, I want to see a checklist. I want to see a communication plan. I want to see everybody on station. I want to see that protocols have been reviewed and verified. And when you bring that to the table, people are like looking at you like, who is this guy? Calm down there. Maybe you should, you know, hey, take some time off a little bit. I mean, you definitely have to manage those kinds of feelings as you do things at work, you know, in the corporate side. But people want that. People need that. And sometimes you have to, you know, help them get there by taking those experiences and showing them that, hey, this is important and this, we have to bring some intensity to this and some deliberate action. So you'd be surprised if that's not always there.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We're about out of time, but we do have a question from our audience. Can you share, and this could go to either one of you, can you share more about the culture at Illumina and the Veterans Employee Group?
Go for
Martin,
it.
do you want to? Okay,
I
can start.
If you want.
Yeah, sure. I'll give my experience. You know, I've been there a little bit and just been very fortunate that the culture has kind of fit who I am, because at Illumina, I think you learn very quickly if it'll work out for you there or not, because it's pretty intense in the corporate world. It's demanding. So you'll see a lot of spikes within like the first year that people will leave. But once you get to about that 2-3 year mark, you really see kind of a drop off where, you know, people figure out, okay, this is for me, you know, this works out. So, I mean, I've been very ingrained, like honestly, in a lot of the like extracurricular activities that we do, from like all of the different sports teams that we have at Illumina. I've met tons of friends through that. And then it actually does help at work because you have a ton of contacts across the country and in different groups. And like just the Veterans Employee Group, it started to grow, I would say, the last like year to probably the last 2 years. It started slowly and they've started to expand, I think, a little bit more the last 2 years, probably slowed down a little bit due to things in the world happening, but it's definitely, it still has steam, and I think it'll pick back up in the next, 6 months to a year.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Thank you both for sharing your stories today. I really appreciate it. I think you both have unique perspectives and again, so very informative. Love to hear everyone's stories, especially those of you who participated in the Biocom Fellowship Program and participated as mentors and committee members and have really gotten involved. So that's thank you for, helping the next generation and mentoring and providing all this information. So what we're going to do now is just going to take a quick 3-minute break. And then after that, we're going to join the breakout room. So we'll just take a quick 3-minute break and then we'll be right back. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Chris, for your time. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Great. I see we have someone in the chat saying that they had lots of questions at the end, so they just closed out. So great. We'll be happy to answer more questions at the networking event coming up at 4 o'clock. So, all right. Now I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about our upcoming 2022 Military Fellowship Cohort, which takes place January through October of 2022. And that program will be, the application for that program will be opening up today, and it will stay open for another month. So please feel free to check it out. And the fellowship include, each year we take 20 fellows and we pair them with 20 mentors. So you get one-on-one mentorship. And so that mentorship covers over 9 months. So you're talking with a successful professional in the life sciences industry, a minimum of 3 times and as many times as you like through that period, depending on how you and your mentor want to work with that. And then there are also 10 professional development sessions that are specific to veterans transitioning into the life sciences industry. So we do everything from the basics of, how to spice up your LinkedIn profile, and how to, network, how to work a virtual job fair, how to be an entrepreneur. So we have lots of different seminars. One of the great things about it is that we have one-on-one mock interviews for you if you're a fellow with Biocom California member company HR professionals. And we also have a one-on-one resume review roundtable. So that's a full hour that you are sitting with an HR professional to review your resume after you've already reviewed it with your mentor and improved it yourself. So I see that there is a question already that do you have to be located in California? Yes, this is currently a statewide program. You do need to be located anywhere in California. So you also have access to one Biocom California event per month. Biocom California produces around 200 events per year, and they're anything from extremely specialized events, you know, having to do with artificial intelligence, regulatory affairs, you know, there are any number of topics that would be covered in life sciences. And then there are networking events. So we do have a summertime open house and supplier showcase that is usually, it's live, and it is an event that I would encourage all the fellows and all the mentors to go to. And that is just a pure networking event with free food and drinks and no agenda. And so we are offering our military fellows free admission to the Biocom California Supplier Showcase and Open House. We also allow our fellows to participate in the 8-hour Basics of Biotech course. This is a virtual course that covers everything that the non-scientist needs to know about the biotech industry. And then we also invite our military fellows to an exclusive career fair that is attended only by military fellows, current and past. And that is typically very small, just about 8 or 10 companies. But all of those companies are Biocom member companies, and they are all hiring. So in order to participate, they have to have open positions. So it's a great opportunity for the fellows to connect with potential employers after all the exercises, training, and learnings they've gone through. So any current military members, transitioning military members, or veterans who are interested in learning more about the military fellowship are welcome to apply. The application is in the chat. Paulina has just posted it. And now I'm going to take a few minutes to walk you through some of the features of the AirMeet platform that we'll be using for the virtual networking from 4 to 4:45 or 4 to 5 o'clock. Usually it runs a little long. And so AirMeet is a fairly simple to use, just as with an in-person event. We want you to come in, get comfortable, take a look around. So basic information, you'll need to use a laptop and Google Chrome to join. And please have a stable and good internet connection. If you have trouble, restart the browser to avoid issues due to caching at all. And when you enter the event, you will be directed, you'll be in what's called the social lounge, and you'll see 12 tables set up. So the social lounge allows you to interact with other participants at the event and hop between tables to meet new people and have conversations. So we will have tables with company representatives, tables with education providers, and a table for the Wounded Warrior Project. So be sure to stop by all of the tables if you can. It's not that many, so it should be pretty easy. And so all of the virtual events have 8 seats each. Once you decide which table you'd like to be seated at, select take a seat, take the button below the table. And when you join a table, you'll be muted and your video camera will be off. So please stay on mute until you want to speak and then unmute yourself. So this could avoid any audio feedback. And then when you'd like to talk, please turn your video on, or actually when you get to the table, please turn your video on. You can adjust your layout by clicking on the square at the bottom of the table images. As I said previously, you're free to get up and move at any time. But, basic protocol, if you want to leave the conversation, say goodbye to the table participants and click the leave table button on the right. And also be prepared for some lag time in the system as you move from table to table. When you are at a table, you can interact with other members seated at the table in a virtual mini conference. And you can even have a private table chat if you'd like to step away from a table and, go to one of the blank tables. The table 12 is blank. So you can go there and have a private table chat. When you are at a table, or actually the AirMeet has 2 chat box features. One is for the entire event to the right of your screen when you enter, and one for each table. Anyone who joins the table will be able to view this chat in the bottom control bar. And if you have any questions during the virtual networking event, please use the event chat box. If you would like to view participant files, click on the display picture of any participant to view their profiles. So I would like to take a moment again to thank our wonderful sponsors for this event. We appreciate your support. We could not do this without you. I would also like to take a moment to thank our Biocom California staff, as well as our Biocom California Institute staff for assisting with this event. Teamwork makes the dream work, and we could not do this without everybody's support. So at this point, we have about 5 minutes left to transition, and I would like to direct you to the chat where there's a brief survey, very brief survey, that we'd like you to take regarding this event. And please participate in the survey and let us know your thoughts, how we could improve it, and any general feedback that you may have. Thank you so much for joining us for this symposium. We really appreciate your participation, and we hope you enjoyed the event. So with that, I'm going to just stop and see if anybody has any questions prior to the transitioning to the survey and to the AirMeet. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and I will be happy to answer them. I also would like to add quickly that if you have not had a chance to register for AirMeet, you can still attend the event. Just follow the link and hop into the social lounge and you'll be directed to those tables. No, you are not required. I see we have one more question. Are you required to join Biocom to access the fellowship application? No, you are not. The fellowship application is open to the public. So, and then do we have any contact information for something like this on the East Coast? There are different organizations that are similar to Biocom on the East Coast. And I'm not sure of names of those, but I think one of our staff members can answer that question in the chat. Perhaps Karmin or Vicky, if you could answer that, if there's similar programs on the East Coast.
I'll add some links to the chat. I'm not sure that they might not be exactly the same, but they may have resources. So I'll put those in the chat.
Excellent. This, as we had, as you heard previously, the session is recorded. And so we will have access to that posted on Biocom California Institute's YouTube channel in the future, and we will send you links to all that. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much again for joining us. And Karmin, if you have any last words, I'm going to jump over to the AirMeet. All right, Karmin has posted that East Coast organization, Mass Bio, in the chat. So please feel free to check that out. And I will see you in 1 minute at the AirMeet session. Thank you all.